Hi everyone, welcome to today's show. No introductions, no bull, just straight into it today, and we're going to focus this video on the crypto side because on Ball and Chain we structure it between both. We structure between football and talk about all the great stuff that's happening in soccer and football and all the craziness, let's call it, that happens in the crypto universe. So we're going to focus on crypto today. I thought I'd start, it's been a while, so we've got quite a bit to catch up on. So let's look at how we catch up on the last few weeks. It's been about 2 weeks since I last did a stream, so sorry about that, been busy, but we're back today with some really good content. So the US shutdown continues. I cannot believe I'm saying this. It's gone on for an unprecedented amount of time, hasn't it? And it's getting more and more difficult, challenging as a result of that shutdown. And I just wanted to focus on this macro environment. So we've got quite a different show for you today. So we're going to look at the macro and sort of what's going on in the US and all the tailwinds and stuff that's happening around there. We're going to talk a little bit about the sentiment, the fundamentals and the technicals. I'll just talk through that. Then we're going to go to CoinGecko and have a look at up and down the top 100 and look at just get a feel for the market, not spend too long there, look at bubbles and see what's happening there, check fear and greed, look at the alt season index, and between all of that together we'll be able to paint a picture of what it looks like at the moment. And I've got to say, I'm tired, boss. It's been a difficult few weeks, hasn't it? Everybody's just I think getting fatigue from the market at the moment because we've been promised. You look at the cycles, you look at how things have played out, and Q4 we expected to light up, and it's not quite worked out like that. So why is it not worked out like that? Why is it not played in traditional culture? Well, when we've got institutions buying in now, we've got a bullish president in the US who seems to be doing very well at crypto, better than anybody else, but yet the sort of euphoric phase and the retail has not really come this cycle yet. It's not happening. So what's going to ignite that? What's going to take it to happen? Well, we need the US shutdown to stop. We need the US to sort of agree and get back functioning again, because just focusing on this article that I've got on screen at the moment, it shows that we're nearly 1,400 flights cancelled as US air traffic cuts enter a second day. The reason that's happened is not just because the airlines have decided to just shut up shop, because obviously they're going to lose money as a result of that. This is a result of the government shutdown. So we're getting the tailwinds now and more happening. As the shutdown goes on longer, things are grinding to a halt in the US, like really significantly grinding to a halt. So I think we've got to bear this in mind. It does play into the markets. It does play into things because having this shutdown, it does make everyone a lot more risk averse. It does make people cautious. It means people are tightening the wallets. And when people do that, they're less inclined to spend. And as a result of that, we're not seeing the uptake and the retail coming in, and we're not seeing institutions really piling in because of this sort of concern, of this holding back and risk averse nature. So we need to take that into account and consideration. And as a result of that, I think this next 4 to 6 weeks, basically the length of the shutdown, I think you could say that the sort of bull market's been on hold as a result of that. We've seen so many billions in liquidations over the last month or so. And so take all this into account. You know, it's not just the 4-year cycle. Yes, that is something that we need to think about. Yes, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, so it will do. I still think that cycle's intact, but we do need to see that price movement happening as well. This is not helping. The macro is not helping at all. If we had perfect macro conditions, you know, we had Powell come out, reduce rates. Yes, it was the understood level that everyone had priced in, but it's still consistent with a positive trend. We've got quantitative tightening ending, so that's going to end in December. They've not said it's going to start with easing, but they have said QT is going to end in December. Again, really, really positive sign, but we've just got so much uncertainty over tariffs, so much uncertainty with the government shutdown, and so much political uncertainty across the whole world at the moment with the wars with Israel, with Russia and Ukraine. It just is leading to a very cautious sentiment. So there's two ways that could go. One is we're just on a little pause for the bull market, and towards the end, you know, Q4's 3 huge months. We're about halfway through it, so we've still got another 6 weeks or so, or a bit more, of Q4 to go. So all is not lost. So let's not look. So the thing we've got to watch, and the thing we need to be really mindful of, is watching the lower lows happening against Bitcoin. Bitcoin leads the market. So if Bitcoin drops massively down, then and consistently weekly closes, below the moving average, then we do have to start saying, could this be a bear market? Everyone's predicting it for 2026, but are we starting to see that happen now? The whales are starting to sell. That's usually a top signal. That usually means that the bull market is over. However, that could just be people flushing out and taking profits. That happens sometimes as well. So you've got to read into everything, not take things too literally. This could be the big flush out before the last push. There's one more big push, everyone keeps saying. Or did we have that in August? Who knows? Okay, so I'm just going to move to the coin gecko and put that on screen for a second for everybody. And while we're just looking at that, I'm just focusing on market cap. Has been very, very choppy. As you can see, that's been up and down, and the trading volume in the last 24 hours is down. It's a Sunday. We don't have trading typically from institutions, etc. Because of the EMA, so there's no trading this weekend apart from retail, and retail's not interested at the moment. We know that, so therefore it's understandable. It's going to be quite high. It's going to be quite low at the trading volume. We have seen some great pumps towards the end of last week towards altcoins, really positive, but on the whole, it is absolutely poor. When you look around, look at Bitcoin's price, look at Ethereum's price. As long as Bitcoin stays above 100k. The bull market is still intact. Let's just remember that. So that 100k mark is really important. It was about 106. We broke down from there. So we're continually printing these lower lows. We've just got to be careful now, because if we start to drop below 98k, I think then we could say potentially it's time to out your alt positions, because say goodbye to the bull market. It could happen. Who knows? Okay, let's have a look at some of the fundamentals and focus on some of those top 10 notable fundamentals and what's happening around, volume and impact. Okay, so adoption, utility news, technicals. So inferred from trading view patterns, so we're looking at a bit of data around BTC to ETH is near resistance, but alts are looking oversold. Sentiment, X posts, or Twitter as it was previously known, show polarized bearish crowd. So people saying BTC ETH is a bear trap, versus smart money is going bullish on XRP and Sol. And I think that's in line with the ETF approvals that are either come out or are pending. And I think that's quite interesting, isn't it? That we've got these ETFs, and when the government opens up again, and it's expected that these ETFs will be approved for a number of altcoins, that will be a real bullish sign for the market. So let's see if that happens. We've got a lot of oversold signals on buys, which is obviously reflected in price. And we've got the geopolitical and tariffs weight, as I mentioned before. That's really weighing heavily and creating negative sentiment. However, the Fed cuts have been supportive, so we've got this really balanced view at the moment, and I think you can see that in the market. So let's drill into Bitcoin a little bit. So we've got institutional inflows. We've had 35 billion year to date on ETFs, which is crazy as it is. Becoming a reserve asset narrative. That's the narrative that everybody's going with, that Bitcoin is becoming the reserve asset at the moment. So technical setups, the 50-day moving average is 98k, which I said that level is so important. The 200-day moving average is 85. RSI is neutral to oversold at 35. The volume is about 5% steady, and the range bound resistance is 102,500. And as we can see on screen at the moment, we'll just scroll it down to Bitcoin, we're at 102,144 as we stand at this moment in time. Hopefully we see an increase in that. So the sentiment at the moment is very bearish crowd, and bearish smart money is calling this a bear trap. Is that the case? Will we see? Now, the macro input, the Fed cuts have been positive. The tariffs present a real risk to Bitcoin at 91k. So we've just got to be mindful of that and mindful of what that might mean to us as we progress throughout the rest of the month and the quarter, indeed. So Ethereum, the moving day average, 50-day moving average for that is 3.2k. As we can see, we're at 3.4k at the moment. The 200-day moving average is 3.8. The RSA for relative strength index for Ethereum is 40, which means we've got a 10% elevation there. If you look 7 days, it's down 11%. But we have got a bullish convergence versus BTC. So could we see that ETH to BTC ratio going up? Could we see Ethereum getting strength there against BTC and driving, which would start to signal an alt season coming? not trying to be very not trying to be too bullish. I've got to be neutral because we've got to be very cautious at this moment in time. It feels like we need to be cautious. So we've got liquidity, which is a real positive there, but we've got the shutdown delay, which again I think it's having an impact. We need to be mindful that it is having an impact. XRP, now XRP at the moment is bull flagging, and a lot of people are saying that it's looking really good at the moment. So it wins, and it's cross-border utility is really, Ripple winning the case against the Fed, and then also against the SEC, and then also it's got its cross-border utility, which is really starting to become, with tariff talks. It's actually really looking positive. So there's a bullish play on smart money. A lot of people are saying getting in at XRP at this price is a good price to buy. Not financial advice, though, just here for education and entertainment purposes only. So Trump has got a pro crypto bill, as we talked about earlier, and XRP is seemingly part of that. So we've got a good setup for buy at the moment. It feels good. BNB is a neutral to bear sentiment at the moment. People are cautious. It did pump really high, didn't it? So its 50-week moving average is 950, and it's kind of nearly testing that, but we've got a bit of clearance there at the moment. Its relative strength index is at 34, which means it might be oversold, and that's kind of standard here, isn't it? It's looking like that. It's had a really good pump. It's doing well. So Solana is, again, it's very much like XRP. I think XRP and Sol, and again it coincides with the ETFs, doesn't it? Are really looking bullish at the moment. So smart money is bullish, but there is a bearish crowd. Adoption is increasing for Sol, but the volatility is making it negative. But it's again a bullish setup here. So we know it's got a high transaction per second Sol. We know it's got the meme and DeFi sort of hub label against it. So the 50-day moving average for Sol is 50. We're at 150, so at 159, so we're just testing that, aren't we, at the moment? The relative strength index is really good. It's up there with XRP, so it's at 42, which means the volume is up 20%, and that's through hype. So going down, we're going to have a look at Doge now. So we'll keep flagging these high performers and the top 10 really, and focusing on these. So again, Doge, Mime, Virality, Elon ties, and Elon's been in the news. Musk has been in the news quite a lot recently. Again, RSI is really high there, 55, and the volume is at 25%, so that's pretty good. So it is at the moment below resistance, so we need to break 18 cents. Is where we need to get it above. So it's very close. So we've got mixed, there's short squeeze potential there, so we just need to be careful. But it's a neutral sentiment, and there's a lot of social buzz around Doge at the moment. So moving on to ADA, Cardano. So again, there's a lot of upgrades taking place. The Voltaire upgrade is taking, and staking yields, obviously we know, and ADA are pretty good. And the 50-day moving average is at 50 cents, so we're well above that. The RSI is at 38, which is saying it's oversold, and volume is up 10%. The sentiment at the moment with it is neutral. And again, the economy focus and amid tariffs, a bit painting quite a bullish picture for Cardano. So we'll see what happens. It does seem to be the sleeping giant, doesn't it? Next up, I'm going to preview is Chainlink. So again, Chainlink is an oracle, as we know, and whales are accumulating it at the moment at this level. Its RSI is the relative strength is 48, and the volume's up 12%. There is a real bullish undercurrent with Chainlink, and I'm not financial advice, just personally what I'm doing. I've been pumping into Chainlink. I think it's going to be, if there is a bull market, I think that's going to be a winner, and it's notified by the bullish undercurrent that's underpinning it at the moment. And the infrastructure narrative is a real positive. That's something that's really coming on board at the moment. So Link is one to keep an eye on in the next few, over Q4. Okay, so let's talk about a few notables in there. So XMR is doing very well. Again, in line, if we're seeing real positives with XRP, we're usually seeing real positive with XMR as well. So that's another one. Monero, that's XLM. Monero is another security protocol that's done very well. It's up 26%. It's really pumping at the moment. Litecoin's another one that we've not seen really go. So that's quite interesting. So XMR is up 22%. It's a privacy surge is really where it's coming from. We've seen a real pump on privacy tokens with Zcash and Monero. The RSI for it is at 70, so it's really strong at the moment, but it's looking overbought, and volume's at 150, so there is a real profit-taking risk with Monero. So if you are up, it might be worth considering. If you look at this, look at the chart that I'm going to show right now on Monero, you can see how high up it is there. So just be cautious. If you've got an opportunity to take profits, now might be the time to think about doing it and taking some chips off the table, as they say. Filecoin had a massive pump, however, it is still massively behind where it should be. I'm seeing we got fine fill down here. It should be somewhere down here. Filecoin there, it has pumped. It's up 60% in the last week. You would be saying take profits, however, it is so far down from its all-time high that it's got to pump more, hasn't it? But it could be time to take profits, and I think the message is the storage has just boomed this last week. It's definitely oversold. The RSI is only 28, so it's got high volume, so be careful with that one. Now might be again time to take profits or write off losses before it goes even further down. That's one to think about. NIA is the next one we're going to preview, right down at the bottom. So let's have a look for NIA, see if we can see that. Where is NIA? Quant there. Can we see NIA protocol? You'll probably see it before I do. NIA protocol. There we go. So that's a 24% pop, which is pretty good, isn't it? So it's got AI bullish ties. Again, the AI tokens seem to be doing really well. We've had a good pump for NIA. We also had a good pump for FET, which had a good pump, but it's still underperforming massively. If we are going to see if we can find FET. Should be around here somewhere. Maybe it's dipped out actually, top 100. But FET also had a good move as well with NIA, and that's in line with quite a few of the other sort of AI related tokens that are performing pretty well over the last week. So again, just focusing a little bit on NIA as I scroll down to find it again. So NIA has had a really pretty good week in line with some of the other AI tokens. I don't remember where these are. I don't have a better job remembering. So let's go through NIA. So it's bullish ties. So let's just say alts on average are oversold with world breath. So we've got to wait for the rotation. We're still waiting for that rotation from Bitcoin into the altcoins. So the top 5 losing games, we've talked about Monero, Filecoin, Internet Computer's done well, Zcash has done well, and I can't believe this, I'm saying this, but Polkadot actually seems to be waking up and is doing pretty well. So hopefully it is dead or is rising. So it's at 314, but it's up 6%, which is, when you look on the whole, that's pretty good compared to everywhere else. So it's doing well. So Filecoin, whilst it pumped 17%, it's gone down. Again, there's a lot of profit taking on Filecoin. So it was a winner and then it became a loser. Arweave is down quite a lot. ICP is down 15%, and I think that's down to the hype. It really hyped up, didn't it, over August into September, but it really is struggling. Tezos is down and Horizon is down. So Fear and Greed, let's have a look at that. So Fear and Greed is down to 22, which still says we're in extreme fear. It's up to from yesterday, which was 20. We're seeing high volatility, 25% late, low momentum, and a bearish social. So let's just, because we've got to take all these into account. It's not just price, it's everything we're seeing around it. That's why I try to cover and be as comprehensive as possible on this channel, because you don't always get the full picture. People will sometimes focus on price, but what I want to do is look around all the different signals and all the different areas you have to take into account when you're assessing the state of the market. It's not just price, it's not just looking at charts, it's looking at everything around, and it's really important that we're comprehensive in this, and that's what I try to do on this channel. So with volatility being up but volume and momentum being down and the socials being bearish, it does point to signals being oversold, and this is historically a buy zone. So post 2022 bottoms is what kind of we're seeing now. So we've just got to remember that this could be the last bottom, this could be the last opportunity to accumulate before we have that final squeeze and that final pump. So again, we've got reds. Let's have a look at crypto bubbles now. So we've seen Fear and Greed. We're in extreme fear, which is usually the bottoming. So as we bottomed out, and is it time to pump? We've not seen extreme greed yet. So we've seen greed, we've seen fear, but we haven't seen, at the start of October, we saw greed, but we didn't get into extreme greed. and then we dipped right down from fear to extreme fear now, and hopefully 20 was the bottom of the scale, and we're now going to see a good pump up into extreme greed is where we're hoping. So let's look at them bubbles. So at the moment, we're seeing green, largely green, largely red. It's a real mixed picture, isn't it? If you see FET's gone down, having had a really big pump over the weekend, so it's interesting to see, isn't it? People profit taking, it went up 30% in the last day. Profit taking's happened, it's gone down 16. Very similar to Filecoin, as I was saying before. Filecoin up 60%, but then bottoming down. Look at all the profit taking. Look at this. So you see over the last week, things are pumped. Look at the ones that are dropping. There's a correlation there, isn't there, between people profit taking there. So just remember, when it pumps, if you get a good pump, you naturally the next day you're probably going to see a dip. So people will take profit. So if you're in those coins and you're in profit, then think about taking profit. It doesn't matter where it is in the cycle. It doesn't matter where it is. If you are in profit, with the way things are playing out in this market, take it. That's what I'm learning. When I've got an opportunity, when I am in profit, finally, with anything, with the exception of ETH and BTC, then I will be taking profits, because I think they're the ones that really, you just can't take any chance at all. It's just so tricky at the moment. So there's low retail. We keep talking about that. Sentiment's quite bearish at the moment. So we've got, if we look at the sentiment around on X and Twitter, which is a really great gauge. A lot of people use Twitter or X as the sentiment gauge. So we've got 60% of users who are bearish and only 40% are bullish. And the smart money is saying XRP and Sol at the moment. And Trump bill hype is obviously pushing that. We've had quite a lot of ETF outflows, 558 million. So that demonstrates a bit of caution there. And dominance suppressors, 56 alt. So as we've seen, if we look at alt season, we can back that up with where we are. It's saying 39 on the alt season gauge, and that's about right. Bitcoin is dominating at the moment because alts have really bled against it. But over the last week, we have seen an increase in alts against Bitcoin, but it's not all of them. It's only certain ones. So it still is a choppy part of the thing. And speaking of choppy, so let's have a look at the current market and macro conditions at the moment. I was talking about that a minute ago, wasn't I? About the government shutdown impacting. So BTC has got to hold support. 100k support, but faces 102,500 resistance, and that's exactly what we've been talking about, isn't it? We've been saying that resistance level at 102,500 is so important. It doesn't seem to make it above that, but that's a real position to look at. If we can break above 102 over and into next week, we might see a bullish rise again. Also underperforming against Bitcoin, as we've talked about. Leverage is low, defensive stance at the moment versus the October highs, but we've got a lot of positive ETF inflows are rebounding potentially, but the liquidations have really crippled the market and really brought people back, and there's a cautious element as a result of those liquidations. So the macro and political, let's summarise where we are with that. There's a bearish tilt, obviously, from the Trump tariffs. And we've got up and down. There's been caution and there's been drops since February. The US shutdown enters its 5th week, and that delays regulations and ETFs, which dampens risk, as we talked about. Inflation's at 2.9%, so it's cooling, but higher for longer rates. So bullish. Let's talk about some bullish. Let's get people a bit excited. Trump's pro-crypto sign. We've talked about this. He's signed the crypto market bill. ETH reserve keeps talking about as well. Geopolitical. US and China continue to potentially talk about collaboration, which can only be a positive thing. And the AI and DeFi sectors look really resilient. So we've got to remember that. So events for this week. So there's no, obviously, FOMC in November. The next one is actually the 16th to 17th of December. There's 2 projected signals for rate cuts in 2026. We could see one in December. So what we want is a really dovish Jerome Powell in December. That pushes at the bull market into January, and the target we shift 5 weeks. Let's just do the hypothesis that the next 5 weeks, because of the government shutdown, that's moved the bull market on 5 weeks, and we'll see it. Now we've got this low time, we could kick back up and see December and January actually replicate Q4. So think of the 5 weeks as been a pause. The government starts up again next week. I think that will be, if it does start up again next week, that will be a bullish catalyst. I think people will see that really positively and perhaps be a bit more positive and less bearish. We could see a bit more bullish nature, and that will be reflected in price. So I think if we see the government come back, think about a 5 week delay then. So if that's a 5 week delay, that takes us into a positive Q1 January. So I'm staying open-minded to the fact that the bear market might be 5 weeks pushed back. And if that's the case, then now we've got to start thinking, okay, if that is being pushed by 5 weeks, then where does that leave us now? And what does that mean for us in terms of the market? So we just got to keep an eye on everything that's happening. So it's Veterans Day over the course of the next week in UK and in America. Payroll deadlines, payrolls the 5th of December. So from FOMC will prep the key jobs data, which is again another measure that they use for inflation, another measure that they use when setting rates. And Supreme Court tariffs ruling takes place December, January. So it's bullish if it's actually against Trump. So if Trump loses his tariff war, that's good for us. That's what we want. We want them to rip the tariffs off and stop that, so that we could that things. And also, like I've just said, the shutdown end could spark a rally. So let's hope. I hope not just for the markets, but for the US in general, that the government can reach an agreement and the shutdown ends and they can get back to operating mode, because it must be really difficult at the moment with that happening, because the impact that's happening even economically on the US. Okay, so we said XRP long is the call. If you were wanting to put a trade on, going long on XRP with a stop loss at about 215, but then looking at tiered profit taking at 240, 250, and looking at a 15% to 20% profit if you are looking to take that. There's a lot of macro tailwinds and tech bounce around XRP at the moment, which could be a quick flip. But it's not financial advice, and the idea is to trade small if you are making a little trade on XRP, but it does look like one that might be quite a good call to make. Okay, that summarises our show. I think we've been really comprehensive there. We've gone through price action, we've gone through macro, we've gone through sentiment, we've gone through relative strength. We've covered everything. Don't know about you, but I think I'm ready for a stiff drink after all that. And keeping my fingers crossed that next week is a really green and bullish week. I think we deserve it. The signals are there. I think it all hinges, to be honest, on this government shutdown. And I think if that we get some positive news and it doesn't enter a 6 week, then I think we could start to see the markets react pretty positively. So fingers crossed for that. Whatever you're doing this weekend and whatever you've got left of it, I hope you enjoy it. I'll be back with another video definitely next week. We won't have the delays that we've had recently. I'll be back next week to talk more about crypto. Have a great rest of your weekend, and thanks for watching the show. Please like, share and subscribe if you don't mind. Tell your friends about it, get them involved, and tell me what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think about the show, what we could do better, what you don't like, if you like the varied content and all the different angles we cover. And what do you think about the markets? Are you bearish? Are you bullish? Do you think we're going to have more green weeks? Do you think it's over? Are we entering a bear market now? Are we actually in a bear market? Or are we just entering a little bit of a trap that's just squeezing all the paper hands out and the diamond hand will win? Or is it the other way around? Are the diamond hands being delusional and are we in a bear market and is there too much positivity? Will we see retail happen? All these questions I'm posing to you guys, so let me know in the comments what you think about the current state of the market. And as always, none of this is financial advice, it's just for education and entertainment purposes only, with the idea to try and keep you fully abreast and fully updated on everything that's happening in the markets at the moment. Okay, gonna call it there. Have a great rest of your weekend. We're out. Bye.